עמו, מסרו מיום ליום ישועתו. שירו
One weekday morning, Reb Chaim of Bratslav was looking out his window when he noticed his disciple Chaim rushing along the street. Reb Nachman opened his window and he invited Chaim to come inside. And when Chaim entered, Nachman said to him, "Chaim, have you seen the sky this morning?" Chaim was confused. "No, Rebbe," he answered. "Well, what did you see then?" He said, "Well, on the street, I saw people and carts and merchandise, merchants and peasants, all coming and going, selling and buying." Reb Nachman interrupted him. "Chaim," he said, "in 50 years, in 100 years, on that very street, there will still be a market. Other vehicles will bring merchandise and merchants to the street, but I will not be here anymore, and probably neither will you. And so I ask you, Chaim, what is the purpose of all your running around if you never stop and take a moment to look up and admire the sky?" Shabbat is our weekly opportunity to stop, look up at the proverbial sky, to take time out, to take it all in, to practice and experience gratitude for the gifts that we have. And on this moment of Shabbos celebration with Hannah and Marshall, we invite you to do the same, to turn off your cell phones or at least put them on silent for 45 minutes, for an hour, even an hour and a half. The world will still be there when you come back. Be with us as they lead us in worship, they teach their Torah truths. Take an opportunity for moments of silence, meditation, even a little spiritual seeking. I promise you, it will help you in the week ahead. When we leave this place, having taken time out, we will be so much more rejuvenated and ready to keep perspective on the week ahead. And so I invite you to join us on page 78 in our prayer books, our Sidurim, as we praise God for the gift of body and soul. Elohai neshama shenatata bi tahorahi. My God, the soul you have given us is pure. We turn now to page 83 as we make ready to set our intentions for this Shabbat, for the week ahead, reading responsively. As I awaken, let this be my thought. May my day be filled with acts of loving kindness. Let me be drawn to learning and discernment, and may my actions be shaped by mitzvot.
Keep me from iniquity, disgrace, and sin. May I not be overwhelmed by temptation or despair.
Distance me from evil people and false friends. Let me cultivate a life of goodness.
May my hands reach out in kindness, and I will serve God through acts of righteousness.
Today and every day may I merit your mercy by living my life with compassion and love.
Holy One of blessing, draw me to your words. Teach me the art of sacred living.
Baruch atah Adonai, hamelamed chasadim tovim la'amo Yisrael. We turn now to page 106 as we rise for Chatzi Kaddish and remain standing through the Shema.
Yitkadash Shemei Rabbah, Amen. דיברחתי וימליך מלכותי וחייכון וימלכון וחיילך בית ישראל בגלוי וזמן קריב וימרו אמן יהי שמי רבה מבורך לעולם עולמי עמיה יתברך יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויג'מר ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתעלה שמי קודשה בריחו לעילוי מן כל בחטא ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דל מירון בעלמה ויאמרו אמן.
We turn now to page 108 for the Baruchu, and it's my pleasure to invite up Hannah and Marshall, our B'nai Mitzvah, to lead us in the next section of our worship service.
Baruchu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. We continue on page 110.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, yotzer or uvarei hoshech, osei shalom uvarei et hakol, hemeir la'aretz v'ladarim alecha barachamim, uvtuvo mekadesh bechol yom tamid ma'aseh v'reishit.
Ma rabu ma'aseha Adonai, hulam behochma asita, mal'ah ha'aretz kinyaneha. Tit barach Adonai Eloheinu, al shevach ma'aseh yadaha, ve'al me'orei or she'asita yafa'arucha selah. Or chadash al Zion ta'ir v'nizkeh, hulanu mehera le'oro. Baruch atah Adonai yotzer ha'me'orot.
We continue in the middle of page 113. Love your neighbor as yourself, you said, and light blinded we saw, that inner and outer worlds are one. As you are one, you spoke and we wrote.
We reached for you down the centuries, your light moving before us as we climbed, fell back, and climbed again, your Sinai of life. Baruch atah Adonai, haboher be'omo Yisrael be'ahava. We continue on page 114. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Le'olam Va'ed.
Please be seated.
We continue together on page 116. Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha b'chol levavcha u'b'chol nafshecha u'b'chol me'odecha ve'hayu hadvarim ha'elem asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levavecha Veshinatan levaneha, vidibartam bam, beshivteha bebeteha, uvlefteham vaderech, uvshokbeham uvkumeha, ukshartam leot aliadeha, vehailitotafot beineineha, uchtavtam al mezuzot beiteha, Uvishareha Leman Tiskeru Vasitem et Kol Mitzvotai B'Tem Kedoshim Elohehem Ani Adonai Elohehem Asher Hotzeiti Etchem Me'eretz Mitzrayim Liot Lahem Elohim Ani Adonai Elohechem. Amen.
We continue on page 121. Please read responsively. The eternal truth is that you alone are God and there is no one else.
May the righteous of all nations rejoice in your love and exult in your justice.
Let them beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks.
Let nation not lift up sword against nation, nor learn war any more. You shall not hate your brother or your sister in your heart.
The stranger that sojourns with you shall be accepted as your equal, for you are strangers in the land of Egypt.
Why do you crush my people and oppress the poor, asks God.
We know that the Eternal One defends the poor and upholds the rights of the needy.
Praise to God Most High.
Blessed is God and deserving of blessing.
Mi chamocha, Ba'elim Adonai. Mi kamocha, Neder b'kodesh, Nor teilot, Osei feleh, Shira chadasha, Shivchu geolim, L'shimcha sefatayav, Yachad kulam hodu, Ve'imlichu ve'ameru, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed. Tzur Yisrael, Kulma, Bezrat Yisrael, Koleinu, Adonai Tzavot Shemo, Kedosh Yisrael. Baruch atah Adonai, God Israel.
We continue with the Amidah, page 124. Please rise.
Adonai Sefatayv Tivta Ufi Yagi Tehilateha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ve'Elohei Avotenu ve'Imotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Ha'el Hagadol, Hagibor v'Hanora, El Elyon, Gomel Hasadim Tovim, V'konei Hakol, V'zoher Hasei Avot v'Imahot, Umevi Gula Lavnei B'neihem, Leman Shemo Be'ahava, Melech Hozer Umoshia Umagen, Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Bezrat Sarah. Atah Gibor Le'olam Adonai, Mehayeh HaKol Atara Lehoshia, Mori Atah, Mehalkel Haim Behesed, Mehayeh HaKol Berachamim Ramim, Somech Noflim Verofeh Holim, Umatir Rasurim, Umekayem Emunato, Lishenei Afa, Michamocha Bal Gevurot, Umidom Melach, Melech Memitz, Umechayem, Umatzmiya Yeshua, V'ne'emanat Alahayot HaKol, Baruch atah Adonai, Mehayeh HaKol.
מקדש את שמך בעולם, כשם שמקדישים אותו בשמי מרום, ככתוב היד נביאך, וקרא זה ואמר, קדוש, 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 אדוני צבאות, מלוך כל הארץ, כבודו. אדיר, אדירנו, אדוני, אדוננו, מאדיר שמך בכל הארץ. ברוך כבוד אדוני ממקומו. אחד הוא אלוהינו, הוא אבינו, הוא מוקינו, הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו, ברחמיו לעיני כל חי. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, ימלוך אדוני לעולם, אלוהיך ציון, לדור ודור. הללויה. לדור ודור נגיד גודלך, ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש, ושבחך אלוהינו מפינו לא ימוש, לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
Please be seated.
We praise God for the gift of Shabbat with the singing of Yismechu on page 132.
ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי, שומרי, שומרי שבת, קוראי עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי, שומרי, שומרי שבת, קוראי עונג שבת. מקדש שבי שבת, כולם ישמעו ויתענגו מטובך שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי, שומרי, שומרי שבת, קוראי עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי, שומרי, שומרי שבת, קוראי עונג שבת. והשביעי רצית בו וקידשת שבת. חמדת ימים אותו קראת שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי, שומרי, שומרי שבת, קוראי עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי, שומרי, שומרי שבת, קוראי עונג שבת. זכר למעשה בראשית שבת,
page 137. Ever-present one, may we, your people Israel, be worthy in our deeds and our prayer, wherever we live, wherever we seek you.
In this land, in Zion restored, in all lands, you are our God, whom alone we serve in reverence. Baruch atah Adonai, she'ota levad ha'be'ir anavod. We acknowledge with thanks that you are Adonai, our God and the God of our ancestors forever. You are the rock of our lives and the shield of our salvation in every generation. Let us thank you and praise you for our lives which are in your hand, for our souls which are in your care, for your miracles that we experience every day, and for your wondrous deeds and favors at every time of day, evening, morning, and noon. O good one, whose mercies never end, O compassionate one, whose kindness never fails, we forever put our hope in you.
For all these things, O sovereign, let your name be forever praised and blessed. O God, our Redeemer and Helper, let all who live affirm you and praise your name in truth. Blessed are you, Adonai, your name is goodness, and you are worthy of thanksgiving.
Baruch atah Adonai, hatov shimcha ule'ana'el lehodot.
Sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, tova v'racha. Sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, tova v'racha. Ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la 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 la, ya la la la, sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, sim, 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 shalom, tova v'racha. We continue together in the middle of page 141.
Grant us peace, your most precious gift, O eternal source of peace, and give us the will to proclaim its message to all the peoples of the earth. Bless our country as a safeguard of peace, its advocate among the nations.
May contentment reign within our borders, health and happiness within our homes, strengthen the bonds of friendship and fellowship among all inhabitants of our world. Plant virtue in every soul, and may the love of your name hallow every home and every heart. Praised are you, Adonai, who blesses your people with peace. Baruch atah Adonai, hamevarech et amo Yisrael b'shalom.
Having prayed for peace in our world, we think of those who face the future not fully whole, those who are in need of healing, of mind, of body, and of spirit. We think of them and whisper their names aloud now. The words to Misha Berach can be found on page 253.
moment for your own silent prayers.
Say shalom bimromav, Huya say shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'imru amen. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael. Ya'aseh shalom, Ya'aseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael.
Seder Kriyat Torah, service for the reading of Torah, page 245. Assemble the people, men, women, and children, and the strangers in your cities to hear, to learn, to revere Adonai your God, to observe faithfully the words of this Torah. And let their children who do not yet know it hear, that they too may learn to revere Adonai your God. As we prepare to open the ark and take out our sacred scrolls, I call upon the generations of Hannah and Marshall's family to stand with them on the bima as part of a generational chain of tradition. To stand with them, I call upon their parents, Sarah and Jeff, as well as their grandparents, Jim and Sharon Gilraith, and Elaine Eisner, as well as great-grandmother Kathy Menger, and to open the ark, good friend Cole Seacrest, and I invite the rest of the congregation to please rise.
Ein kamocha ba'Elohim Adonai, ve'en k'ma'asecha. Malchutcha malchut kol olamim, u'memeshaltecha b'chol dor v'dor. Adonai melech, Adonai malach, Adonai imloch le'olam va'ed, Adonai oz le'amo yitin, Adonai yivarech et amo v'shalom.
Torah tzivalanu Moshe Marashat Kehilat Yaakov. This is the Torah given by God to Moses, the inheritance of the congregation of Israel. Hannah and Marshall. At Mount Sinai, God gave the gift of Torah to Moses to share with the people of Israel. And in his time, he passed Torah down to Joshua. Joshua passed Torah down to the elders. The elders passed Torah down to the prophets, who cried out its mission, its story, its goals of justice for all, aloud for all to hear. The prophets passed Torah down to the Anshe Knesset Hagadolah, the men of the Great Assembly, and they passed Torah down to the rabbis. The rabbis spent their lives looking at those ancient stories, those ancient texts, looking for modern meaning in their own day to share with the people so that they would still find Torah to be relevant and true. And it is that practice of always searching for modern meaning that allows us to stand here on this bima with you and pass Torah down to the newest generation, the newest link in the chain, Hannah and Marshall. And just like God gave the Torah as a gift to the people of Israel with love, so too do the generations of your family stand here with you, overflowing with pride and joy at the opportunity to keep those traditions alive in the two of you. And so we know as we pass the Torah down that the legacy of Jewish tradition, the legacy of the Torah goes from generation to generation in an unbroken chain. Got it? Okay.
In this scroll is the secret of our people's life from Sinai until now. Its teaching is love and justice, goodness and hope. Freedom is its gift to all who treasure it.
Baruch Shanatan Torah Torah. Baruch Shanatan Torah Torah. Le'amo Yisrael b'kedushato. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo. Gadlul Adonai iti unomema Shemo yachtav. Lecha Adonai hagedula le'hagvura le'hatiferet le'hanetzach le'ha'od. Ki chol b'shamayim u'ba'aretz. Ki chol b'shamayim Aretz lecha Adonai hamamlacha v'mitnaseh lechol erosh. Ledor vador, ledor vador, ledor vador nagid God lacha. Ledor vador, ledor vador, ledor vador nagid God lacha. Ulenetzach netzachim kedushatecha nakdish, kedushatecha nakdish. V'shivchacha Eloheinu mipenu lo yamush le'olam le'olam va'ed. Ledor vador, ledor vador, ledor vador nagid God lacha. Ledor vador, ledor vador, ledor vador nagid God lacha. Ulenetzach netzachim kedushatecha nakdish, kedushatecha nakdish. V'shivchacha Eloheinu mipenu lo yamush le'olam le'olam va'ed. You may be seated. This week, we read from Parshat Akev in the book of Deuteronomy. As the Israelites are getting ready to enter the land of Israel, a bountiful land, the people are cautioned to maintain their faith in God. Moses reminds them to remember to give thanks to God continually for the abundance that God has provided. Moses also reminds the Israelites to follow God's commandments and laws. You can follow along with Marshall and Hannah in your service supplement. The Torah portions are listed in there. It's my pleasure to call Marshall forward, along with his uncle, Adam Gilreath, for the honor of the first Aliyah.
Baruch Adonai HaMbarach. Baruch Adonai HaMbarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bar Banu Mikol Hamamim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Et Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Kol hamitzvah asher anohi mitzavaha hayom tishmerun la'asot. Lama'an tihyun orvitem uvatem virishtem et haaretz asher nishba Adonai la'avotehem. V'zacharta et kol haderech asher choliheha Adonai Elohecha ze arba'im shana bamidbar. Lama'an anota lenasota lada'at et asher bavavaha. Hatishmor mitzvotav im lo. Vaya'aha vayariveha v'alhilha et haman asher lo yadata. V'lo yadun avoteha. Lama'an hodiaha ki lo al halahem levado yechye hadam. Ki al kol matzah fi Adonai yechye hadam. You shall faithfully observe all the instruction that I enjoin upon you today, that you may thrive and increase and be able to possess the land that the Eternal promised on oath to your fathers. Remember the long way that the Eternal your God has made you travel in the wilderness these past 40 years, in order to test you by your hardships, to learn what was in your hearts, whether you would keep the divine commandments or not. God subjected you to the hardships of hunger and then gave you manna to eat, which neither you nor your ancestors had ever known, in order to teach you that man does not live on bread alone, but that one may live on anything that the Eternal decrees.
Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Natan Lanu Torah Emet V'Hayeh Olam Notei Botei Chayinu. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
For the honor of the second Aliyah, it's my pleasure to invite Marshall's parents, Jeff and Sarah Gilreath.
Baruch et Adonai HaMbarach. Baruch Adonai HaMbarach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Melech HaOlam Asher Bahar Banu Mikol Ha'amim V'natan Lanu Et Torato. Baruch Atah Adonai Noten HaTorah.
Amen. Simlata lo valta me'aleha, v'ragleha lo vatzika ze arba'im shana. V'yadata im levaveha, ki ka'asher yeyeser, ish et beno Adonai Elohecha, Elohecha lelehet bidrachav, le'yira oto, ki Adonai Elohecha, mabi'aha el eretz tova, eretz nahale mayim. Ayanot tehamot yotzim babika uvahar. Eretz hita usa'ara. V'gefen uta'ana verimon. Eretz zait shemen udavash. The clothes upon you did not wear out, nor did your feet swell these 40 years. Bear in mind that the Eternal your God disciplines you just as a parent disciplines a child. Therefore, keep the commandments of the Eternal your God. Walk in God's ways in reverence, for the Eternal your God is bringing you into a good land, a land with streams and springs and fountains issuing from plain and hill, a land of wheat and barley, of vines, figs, and pomegranates, a land of olive trees and honey.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'hayei olam nata beitohinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
And the final aliyah we reserve for our bar mitzvah.
You don't need that, man. You don't need that.
I got it.
The real Hebrew.
Baruch Hu.
Ya'amod Mordechai ben Yosef Shlomo Habachor Habar Mitzvah.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamarach. Baruch Adonai Hamarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech ha'olam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Eretz asher lo v'mizkenut tohal ba lechem lo tachzar. Kol ba eretz asher avaneha barzel umeharareha tachzov nechoshet. Vilhata v'savata uvirachta. Et Adonai Elohecha al haaretz hatova asher natan lach. Hishamer lecha pen tishkach et Adonai Elohecha levioti shmor mitzvotav umishpatav v'chukotav asher anahim mitzavaha hayom. A land where you may eat food without stint, where you will lack nothing. A land whose rocks are iron and from whose hills you can mine copper. When you have eaten your fill, give thanks to the eternal your God for the good land which he has given you. Take care lest you forget the eternal your God and fail to keep the divine commandments, rules, and laws which I enjoin upon you today. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet v'hayei olam nata beitohenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. My Torah portion, Parashat Akeb, is about how Moses is telling the Israelites to follow God's laws so the nations across the Jordan River will not harm them. Moses reminds them of the good things that come because they are keeping God's commandments. Moses states that their land will overflow with milk and honey if they obey God's commandments and then pass them on to their children. The verses I read are about how God gave manna to the people, gave them fruit, and made their feet not swell, their clothes not tear and shrink throughout the 40-year trek. It tells how God did all this, and that if you will follow or bow down to any other god and serve them, that you will perish. Because after what he has done for our ancestors to make it so many generations and generations can be here. My main question about it is manna a gift? One commentator focused on answering my question is Rav Asi. Rav Asi was a rabbi in Babylonia who lived somewhere between 200 to 500 CE. He thought it was a test because they were being tested if they would eat manna, since manna did not look the tastiest or look good. It was a test to see if they trusted God enough to eat the manna. I agree with Rav Asi because it is a test to see if they love, respect, and trust God, but it can also be a gift to the ones who choose to eat it because they had nothing else to sustain them. I feel that this relates to life today because you shouldn't judge a book by its cover. A lot of times people judge a book by its cover or just judge someone they have never known just to make them feel good about themselves. Becoming a bar mitzvah is very important to me because it is becoming a Jewish adult, and I love the idea of it being an adult. I've always wanted to be an adult because I've always tried to sit with the adults and play board games and be in their conversations. That has also come with a ton of responsibilities, such as having to go to work and keeping things in line around your house, or caring for something like a child or a pet. I would like to thank Mom, Dad, my grandparents, Hagit, Rabbi Nathan, Rabbi Jurgen, Cantor Berlin, Hannah, and all of my friends and neighbors here today that have supported me or helped me practice. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
Now Hannah will read, and for the honor of the first Aliyah, I would like to invite her Aunt Jackie Gilreath.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarak. Baruch Adonai Hamvarak le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim benatan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Ve'ata Yisrael, ma Adonai Elohecha sho'el me'imach. Ki im le'yirah et Adonai Elohecha, lelechet bechol derachav, ule'ahava oto, v'la'avod et Adonai Elohecha, bechol levavcha, uvechol nafshecha, lishmor et mitzvot Adonai ve'et hukotav, asher anochi mitzavacha hayom letov lach. Hen la'Adonai Elohecha hashamayim, u'shemei hashamayim ha'aretz, v'chol asher bach. And now, O Israel, what does the eternal your God demand of you? Only this, to revere the eternal your God, to walk only in his paths, to love him, and to serve the eternal your God with all your heart and soul, keeping the eternal's commandments and laws which I enjoin upon you today for your good. Mark the heavens to their uttermost reaches, belong to the eternal your God, the earth, and all that is on it.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torat emet b'hayei olam nata b'toheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
And for the second Aliyah, I'd like to invite Hannah's parents back, Jeff and Sarah.
Baruch et Adonai Hamvarach. Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Rak bavutecha, hashach Adonai le'ahava otam, vayivchar bizaram acharehem, bachem mikol ha'amim kayom hazeh. Omaltem et orlat levavchem, ve'orpehem, lo takshu od, ki Adonai Elohehem, hu Elohe ha'Elohim, Adonai ha'Adonim, ha'el ha'gadol ha'gibor v'hanara, asher lo isa fanim ve'lo ikach shohad. Osei mishpat yatom, ve'almana ve'ohev ger letet lo lechem v'simlach. Yet it was to your fathers that the Eternal was drawn in his love for them, so that he chose you, their lineal descendants, from among all peoples, as is now the case. Cut away, therefore, the thickening about your hearts, and stiffen your necks no more. For the Eternal, your God, is God supreme and Lord supreme, the great, the mighty, and the awesome God, who shows no favor and takes no bribe, but upholds the cause of the fatherless and the widow, and befriends the stranger, providing him with food and clothing.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher nata lanu Torat emet b'hayei olam nata b'toheinu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen. The final Aliyah we reserve for our bat mitzvah. Ta'amol, Chana bat Yosef Shlomo, habat mitzvah.
Baruch hu Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Hamvarach le'olam va'ed.
Baruch atah Adonai. Baruch atah Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Amen.
Va'ahavtem et hager ki gerim heitem be'eretz Mitzrayim et Adonai Elohecha tira oto ta'avod uvo titbach uvishmo tishave'ah. Hu tehilatcha vehu Elohecha asher asa itcha את הגדולות ואת הנוראות האלה אשר ראו עיניך. ב70 נפש ירדו אבותיך מצרימה, ואתה שמך אדוני אלוהיך ככוכבי השמיים לרוב. You too must befriend the strangers, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. You must revere the eternal, only your God shall you worship. To God shall you hold fast, and by God's name shall you swear. The eternal is your glory and your God, who wrought for you those marvelous, awesome deeds that you saw with your own eyes. Your ancestors went down to Egypt, 70 persons in all, and now the eternal, your God, has made you as numerous as the stars of heaven. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet v'chayei olam nata betohenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen. In the verses of Ikev that I read, it talks about how God is eternal and you should always love and appreciate him. It also talks about how we must befriend strangers because we were once strangers in the land of Egypt. The Torah also talks about all of the deeds God did for Egypt against Pharaoh. A question I have about my verses is what are ways arrogance can lead to bad behavior? Rabbi Nachman lived 250 years ago and he was the founder of the Breslov Hasidic movement. Rabbi Yochanan lived over 1,000 years ago. These are the two commentators who discuss this question. They said if you don't give thanks to God, it is considered stealing. They also warned people that what might happen is you'll forget about God and become selfish and arrogant. I agree with these commentators because we would not thank ourselves for growing food. We should thank God because he helps us most of the way. We planted the seeds, then God grew the fruit and provided rain to water them. This relates to life today because say someone grows oranges. They might think they can keep it all to themselves and that they had no help from anyone or anything. The person did not recognize the other people who sold the orange or the tree to sell the orange or orange seeds. Then they will keep believing that until they think they can do anything on their own. Then they might end up doing something stupid, believing that it will work out for them. But in fact, God provided everything for that person to grow successful food. If the person believes that they grew all the food by themselves, they think they will do all of it. Then they will become arrogant and say that they did it all by themselves. Becoming a bat mitzvah is important to me because it shows I'm an adult now, and I have my own responsibilities. To me, this is kind of scary because now it is only a few more years until you can move out and start really doing things on your own. I would like to thank Mom, Dad, Hagit, Rabbi Nathan, Cantor Berlin, Rabbi Jurgen, Grandma, Grandpa, Oma, Marshall, and all of my friends and neighbors that helped me through my preparations for my B'nai Mitzvah. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.
I would like to invite Jeff Ford to lift the Torah and Ava Sechrist to dress the Torah. And I invite you all to rise in honor of the Torah.
Jewish tradition teaches us that the world stands on three pillars, the pillars of Torah, Avodah, and Gemilut Chasadim, that is learning, prayer or spiritual searching, and acts of loving kindness. So both Hannah and Marshall have already fulfilled 2 of those pillars today. They just finished reading and teaching Torah beautifully, and they also led worship in a most excellent manner, I must say. And so now they get to fulfill that 3rd pillar, teaching us about how important acts of loving kindness are. At Temple Beth-El, we don't necessarily read a traditional Haftarah. Instead, we ask our students to choose a prophetic text that is inspiring to them. Most of those texts are found around our building, many on our stained glass windows here in the beautiful Wolf Sanctuary. They choose a text that speaks to them, as well as share the traditional Haftarah blessings and offer us their prophetic perspective.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bahar bin ve'im tovim baratza v'divrehem hana'emarim be'emet. Baruch atah Adonai havoher b'Torah Moshe Avdo, Yisrael Amo, Vinviei Ha'emet V'Tzedek. My verse is Psalm 85:11. Mercy and truth are met together, righteousness and peace have kissed each other. It can be found in the sanctuary on the stained glass. I believe that in this verse, even though there is mercy and truth, that doesn't make things a whole lot better. For things to be way better, righteousness and peace must kiss each other. Because peace is better than mercy, and righteousness is better than truth. Because you are being virtuous, honorable, and morally right. For my mitzvah project, I helped collect money and canned foods for the food bank. I don't know why, but I have always loved helping out the food bank. It just makes me feel better that more people are getting food every day. Every time I got to pick a charity to donate to, I always chose the food bank. I am so excited that now I get to go and help the food bank all on my own. In the end, I raised $185, which is 1,295 meals, and collected 215 pounds of food. I think that this connects with Psalm 85:11 because even if you just donate some money to the food bank or any charity, it's even better if you take the time to go out and buy some canned goods to donate, or even set up your own food drive and volunteer like I did to raise money to then donate.
Our prophetic text is Psalm 85:11. Mercy and truth have met together, righteousness and peace have kissed each other. I think it means that even if you are opposite to someone or something, you can still get along. For my mitzvah project, I volunteered with SNPSA at an adoption event where I helped people pick out the right animals for them. While I was there, I helped set up and take dogs on walks. Most of the time, I sat with them and told people about their personalities and other things. It felt really good to help the animals find good homes that fit their personalities and needs. The way my prophetic text and mitzvah project connect is that I'm doing a righteous thing by helping the dogs find good homes and good families.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam tzor kol haolamim tzadik b'chol hadarot ha'el ha'ne'eman ha'omer ve'oseh hamdaber umkayeh shechol devarach emet v'tzedek al haTorah ve'al ha'ovodah ve'al hanva'im ve'al yom ha'shabbat hazeh shenatata lanu Adonai Eloheinu likdusha ulimnucha lechavod ultifaretz al hakol Adonai Eloheinu Anachnu modim lach umvarchim otach yitbarach shemha befi chol hai tamid leolam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh haShabbat.
All right, Hannah and Marshall, your father and I are so proud of how well you did these last 2 days. You have worked long and hard over the last year with just a little whining, but just like everything you two do, it is always full steam ahead. You two have always wanted to try and learn new things, and it's always been with all your heart, and we know that's why you did so well today. Hannah, you are beautiful and smart, but we think that what makes you you is that you have never been scared of anything. Roller coasters, meeting new people, or trying new foods. You're always the first one who wants to hold the creepy animals or bring the bones of your aunt's long-lost cat home to make a wind chime. There is just nothing you won't do. We hope you never lose this quality, keep learning, and always do the scary things. Marshall, you are handsome, smart, and full, and I mean full of questions. You remember everything except chores, but it's your kindness that stands out the most. Just like your mitzvah project with the food bank, you have always wanted to help. You volunteer for everything you can at school and around the neighborhood, and you are always taking care of neighbors' pets. But more importantly, you love helping your grandparents. You learned to use the riding mower at the coast, and helping Grandpa clean his garage or Grandma in the yard is always on your list for the weekends. That drive to always want to help is going to open many doors for you in life, and maybe after a few questions, we know you will make the most of it. Whether it's been the time you have put in practicing Hebrew or learning to manage your time with school, sports, family, friends, both of you have always been up for anything, and you have always made us proud. We love you more than you know.
At this poignant moment of blessing, we make ready to return Torah to the Ark. We turn to page 256. I'd like to call up Uncle Nick Manger to open the Ark and ask the rest of the congregation to please rise. You may be seated, except for the two of you. Come over here. Take a sip, it's good. Yeah. Cool. Nice. All right, back up a little so you're just there. Perfect. All right. How you guys feeling? Good. Good. And no big deal? Happy? Okay. Okay, well, I hope both of you are happy because each of you in your own way did an absolutely beautiful job this morning. It's not easy to be a brother or a sister. It's not always easy to be a twin, but I want you both to know that each as individual people, you led our service beautifully, and you taught Torah beautifully, and you also taught Torah that was totally different from each other, even though you picked that same prophetic verse, which is really cool. Okay, so I don't usually have to do two, but I want to speak to you each individually and then together. Okay, Marshall, you focus on the gift and also the test of manna, right? Amazing that God made sure that the Israelites were nourished and sustained for 40 years through the desert, right? But think about it. If you had to eat the same thing for breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day for 40 years, would you be happy or not? No. Even if it was, like I said at Torah study today, chocolate cake. Even chocolate cake would get kind of gross and boring if you had to eat it breakfast, lunch, and dinner every single day for 40 years, right? So it was as much as a miracle that they were sustained as it was a test to know that the importance of being nourished or getting fuel was more important than what it was they were eating at that time, and that they had to have faith in God, that God would help them, right? So this test, I think, is a bit of a challenging one. God could have, I don't know if you ever read the book or saw the movie, Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs. Did you ever see that? One of my all-time favorites, right? God could have had it be that in the morning it was eggs and toast, and in lunchtime it was grilled cheese and tomato soup, and dinner meatballs and spaghetti, right? I mean, could have been a varied menu, but no. There was something about it only being about the nourishment and not having it always be so great and so easy that was really important for the mission, for them to evolve from being slaves in Egypt to being free people entering the land. Which gets me to your point about looking forward to being an adult, right? I've always wanted to be an adult. Yes, but when you're an adult, you get to make the choice about what you want to eat and when you want to eat it, right? But like you said, you also have responsibilities, yeah? So it's my hope that as you get older and continue to move towards adultness, that you recognize both the responsibility and the opportunity that does come with being a grown-up, right? Your parents, your grandparents, all the older people in your life have been there with you through the good times and the bad times, helping you to grow into a wonderfully thoughtful and generous and kind human being. As your mom said, you ask a lot of questions. Don't ever stop asking questions. It's not bad to try to understand the why behind the what, right? Wanting to know why you're gonna do what you're gonna do helps you to fully understand and make good choices along the way. Okay, Hannah, you talked about the fact that now I gotta remember, what was it? I just focused so much in on that. Hold on one second, give me a second. I gotcha. Yes, arrogance leading to bad behavior, right? How often do we take for granted the things that we have in our life, whether it's our talent or our amazing family, and think, that's just the way it is. I deserve this, right? It's important not to just focus on what we deserve, but recognize that the gifts that we have need to be earned, but also more importantly, cherished, right? So like your example of growing oranges, right? On one hand, some people are born with a green thumb and anything they touch seems to flourish and grow. Really, what it means is that they have a special ability to pay attention and love and care to those plants, and that's what helps them get nourished and be successful. So I hope that what you understand in your life is that there are lots of times when things will go well and lots of times where things won't go as well. You're gonna get through all of those because, like I said to Marshall, you have an amazing family and friends and network. But in the end, who does it matter? Who does it rely on most of all? You, that's right. It's who you are and how you present yourself and how you show up in the world that is going to matter most of all. I love that whereas your brother was like, I cannot wait to be an adult, you were like, I never want to be an adult, right? I like that balance. Because I think you actually get how hard it can be to be an adult sometimes, right? So I hope that you too know that there are amazing opportunities to get on a roller coaster, sure, but also take all different kinds of chances and be willing to experiment, have new experiences, meet new people, do new things. That's probably the best part of growing up and becoming an adult, is that you get to make those more and more decisions about what you're gonna do. Okay, now, the two of you, I know, like I said at the beginning, not always easy to share a day, but it's kind of nice to have a partner. And I hope that as you continue to grow as human beings separately and also together, that you can find ways to rely on each other, support each other, be grateful for each other. It's good to have another person who's your person in the world, whether you like it or not. It's the way it's going to be. Or that's what, at least I hope that's the way it's going to be. So that when you look back, you're going to say, wasn't it pretty awesome that neither of us had to do this by ourselves? That we had another person who we happen to know really, really well, that we could look across at, give the nod, and know you're going to make it through together. Yeah. I know how proud your mom and your dad, your grandparents, your great-grandmother is to be able to be here and watch the two of you do such a beautiful job today. They are overflowing with pride, as are we. And so I'm going to invite the two of you to come in front of the ark with your parents, Kendra Berlin, Rabbi Jurgen, and me as we share in the priestly benediction, the Birkat Kohanim. I'd ask you all to please rise.
Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha.
May God bless you and keep you.
Ya'er Adonai panav elecha v'choneka.
May God deal kindly with you and be gracious unto you.
Yisar Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom.
May God's radiant presence shine upon you, Hannah and Marshall, granting each of you life's choicest blessings of health, wholeness, happiness, lots of family love, and peace. Amen.
You may be seated, except for Marshall and Hannah, even though you're asking to sit. So I loved how poised you were today, and you had it and you were ready to go, and yet you still kept me cracking up with the looks between each other. And my first real experience with the two of you was having to separate you at Hebrew school tefillah because you'd be smacking each other. So it's so nice to see you in a tefillah leading it without hitting each other. So I love that, and I love how much you have grown. And we want to give you a number of different gifts here. I gotta move them all over. So we start with your certificates. So we said this was going to be, so Rabbi Nathan didn't say it, so I'm going to say it. Was this the fastest bar, bat mitzvah, b'nai mitzvah you've ever been to? Did you expect it to be, even though we told you? Yes, no? Okay, perfect. Very apropos of your relationship. One yes, one no. So yes, right? This was super fast. And because you were leading it, you were in it, you were here and present. So next week when you're back at school and you're like, yeah, did that even happen? You have your certificates to remind you, yes, indeed, it did happen. We also give you a gift certificate from North American Federation of Temple Youth to help get you on a trip to Israel. And when you complete confirmation, because I know you're going to be in my pre-confirmation class this year, so you'll for sure be in confirmation in 10th grade, Temple will match that to help you get on that trip. From Sisterhood, we give each of you a Tanakh, a Bible with your names. Had to make sure it was the right order. And it's nice that they're different colors, so you know whose is whose without the name on there too. For you to continue your learning and your study, it's not something I expect you to be reading before bed every night, but to help you maybe follow along with the Torah portion, see what's going on, and learn from it, and continue to ask questions from our text. From Brotherhood, we give you Kiddush cup and candlesticks. Both of you get your own sets so that as you move out of the house and leave, become adults, you have your own set of Judaica that you can bring with you and continue your Shabbat practice on your own. But for right now, within your house as a family together, with each of you with your own set. From Yachad, our religious school parents group, we give you each of you a tzedakah box. And I loved that you didn't just say, let's just do something together. But you each did your own things, but helped each other. And I loved the pictures that were being put up, whether by your grandmother or your parents, right? Or on our website through Mitzvah Quest, to show how much you cared about your mitzvah projects and helping each other with each other's projects. So I know that you will put this to good use, whether it's with SNPSA or the food bank or any other endeavor you have. I know you'll put this to great use. So you still can't sit down, because now we are moving to the concluding portion of our worship service with Aleinu. I would like to invite up Hannah and Marshall's great aunts and uncle, Eric Manger, Lois Hickman, and Aline Hamilton, to attend to our ark, and I invite the congregation to rise. Aleinu is on page 283. Go grab you can, just use the books that are at your seat and join there. You can come up this way. And you're going to pull that front shoulder just like a window. The front one. There you go.
Aleinu Shabbat Ladon Hakol, Latet Gidel Al Yotzeh Bereshit, Shehu Samech Elkeinu Liached et Shemo, V'gor Aleinu Lamlich Malchuto, V'anachnu Koreim U'mishtachavim Modim, Lifnei Melech Malchei HaMelachim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'ne'emar Haya Adonai L'melech HaKol Haaretz Bayom Hahu Yeh Adonai Echad
You may be seated. As we turn to our memorial meditation on page 289, we note with sadness the death of Kenneth Sugarman, husband of Carol Sugarman, father of Michael, Amy and Dan Weingart, and Andrew Sugarman, brother of Sandra Rosenberg, grandfather of Ethan, Claire, and Lindsay, and uncle to 4 nieces, their husbands, and children. A memorial service will be held here in the Wolf Sanctuary on Sunday, August 21st at 1:30 p.m., with a reception to immediately follow. The service will also be live streamed. Page 289. In nature's ebb and flow, God's eternal law abides. When tears dim our vision or grief clouds our understanding, we often lose sight of God's eternal plan. Yet we know that growth and decay, life and death, all reveal a divine purpose. God, who is our support in the struggles of life, is also our hope in death. We have set God before us and shall not despair. In God's hands are the souls of all the living and the spirits of all flesh. Under God's protection we abide, and by God's love are we comforted. O life of our life, soul of our soul, cause your light to shine into our hearts and fill our spirits with abiding trust in you. Our thoughts turn now to those in our community and extended community who died at this time in years past. As we mark their yard sites, we remember them. Edwin Aronson, Rochelle Francis Gittleson Alexander, Louis Arbetter, Cecil Aronstein, Anthony Arriaga, Luis Bankler, Max Belsky, Jeanette Ackerman Burler, Lena Brown, Beryl Cantil, Dorothy Doe Coben, Irene Wilson Cohen, Melvin David Cohen, Stanley M. Cornell, William DePere, Sheila Farnett, Harry Aaron Fish, Jack Forbes, Ralph Frapart, Major General Catherine Frost, Charlotte Garson, Alcia K. Glosserman, Marco Gonzalez, Judy Guggenheim, Kava Gurovich, Herbert Halstead Sr., Charlotte Harris, Lewis Harris, Henry Hankin, Gloria Herman, Dorothy Janko, Mark Carpel, Sidney Kempler, Ray Kinover, Kalman Lowe, Edward Markey, Rabbi Samuel Marks, William Maurer, Joseph S. Middleman, Stella Pearl, Professor Reinhold Sylvester Pading, Camila K. Poland, Evelyn Poland, Dr. Lewis Richmond, Laura Richmond, Dorothy Roos, Marcus Roos, Lawrence Rosenberg, Robert Rosenthal, J. Marvin Salzman, Pearl Sandfield, Morris Schoenbaum, Eleanor Seelig, Morton Sheffs, Israel Silber, Jerry Sivan, Ronald Scholar, Faye Stein, Gunther Strelke, Rosa Tobin, Morty Whitkin, Alice J. Wolf, and Adriana Garza Zimmerman. We also think of one who's been buried this past month, whose family is in a mourning period of Shloshim. We remember Stephen Lang. We also think of one who's been buried this past week, whose family is in the mourning period of Shiva. We remember Marty Goldberg, husband of Janet Goldberg, father of Stephen and Carmen Goldberg, Robert and Terry Goldberg, and Barbara and William Barrero, grandfather of Aaron, Miriam, Mara, and Michelle, great-grandfather of Abraham, Ryan, Boyce, Evan, and Logan. This Shabbat, Hannah and Marshall's family particularly remembers Donald Eisner, Dale Kaler, Eileen Kaler, Eric Manger, Lorin Manger, and Thomas Manger. To all of these names, we add those which are in our hearts each and every day as we rise together as one community for Kaddish Yatom on page 294. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah, be'alma divrach hirutei v'yamlich malchutei, v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'v'chayei d'chol Beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'v'zman kariv v'imru amen. Yehei shmei Rabbah mevarach le'olam u'mei almaya, yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitromam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitaleh v'yitalal shemei d'kudasha b'richu, Le'ela min kol berchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, ta'amiran be'alma v'imru, amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. Oseh shalom b'imromav, u'ya'aseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru, amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to us and to all Israel, to which we say, amen.
Amen. Our closing song is In Kelohenu on page 322. Hannah and Marshall are going to lead us in Kiddush and Motzi. And to join them, I'd like to call their parents over to the Kiddush Motzi area, as well as their grandmother, Sharon Gilraith, their grandmother, Kathy Manger, their grandfather, Jim Gilraith, their great-grandma, Elaine Eisner, their uncle, Nick Manger, and Aunt Jackie and Uncle Adam Gilraith as well.
Adonai
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen.
Amen. L'chaim.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lehem min haaretz.
Amen. Ze hayom asa Adonai nagila v'nismecha bo. This is the day that God has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Amen and Shabbat Shalom.
Don't let her watch it.
You should go and eat and celebrate and wish them all a mazel tov. We're done.